This has Islander fans absolutely buzzing as top prospect Victor Eklund has officially signed his entry-level contract with the New York Islanders. We're going to explain what that means on this episode of Islanders Digest and also focus on two top prospects who have not signed their entry-level contracts, because in this case, I think the bigger news is actually the two players who have not yet signed entry-level contracts. And we're going to describe why in just a minute. Really quickly, before we get into it, we noticed that 65% of you who watch these videos still have not yet subscribed to the channel. What are you waiting for? If you're an Islander fan, you want more Islanders content just like this, be sure to subscribe for more Islanders content as we continue in the offseason. I'm missing the Islanders, as I'm sure you are, and it's good to be able to talk about something Islanders, and this is really good news for the Islanders. It's nothing surprising. It's very rare for a player not to sign their entry-level contracts when it's awarded, but in this case, it's good news for the Islanders. They got this taken care of right away, and it does now mean that Victor Eklund can try out for the Islanders this season. He will likely get a preseason game or two, depending on his schedule with Sweden. I will say it is highly, I'm probably understating it when I say it is highly unlikely that Victor Eklund makes the Islanders this season. It just does not happen with 16 overall picks, even if I do think Victor Eklund should have been in the top 10. Let's face it, he is not NHL ready yet, but this entry-level contract does mean a couple things for his future with the Islanders. It also does highlight some things with other prospects that we're going to talk about in the later part of this video. I think this is the bigger implication of this signing. It's more the two players who have not signed. Also, it's kind of strange that they sign these entry-level contracts on an iPad now. I guess the future, typically they have a pen. They actually sign the contract on paper, but good for Victor Eklund. It's a great day for him, and this is also going to play a role in the Islanders' future, as I truly believe these 3 years where the Islanders are going to have Victor Eklund on his entry-level contract, those are going to be the opening of the Islanders' window, and I really hope Mathew Barzal takes advantage of having these young players on their entry-level contracts, especially the second and third year of that ELC. I think Victor Eklund is vastly going to outperform the pay he's going to be getting on that contract, which is a standard $925,000 for 3 seasons. Now, talking about Eklund and this ELC, one thing that does have to be noted, Eklund is not 20 years old, so this contract is not going to count against the 50 contracts the Islanders are allowed to have. A lot of people who play franchise mode type games are familiar with the rule that you're only allowed to have a certain amount of contracts in the NHL. This ELC does not count until Victor Eklund turns 20. The exception here is if Victor Eklund does somehow make the Islanders. If he plays 10 games in the NHL, then this contract will count for the Islanders, although I don't see that happening. Another thing people are probably very curious about is where Victor Eklund is going to be playing next season. I think it's almost guaranteed he is going to be playing in Sweden, and I do think this is the best choice for Victor Eklund. There is the option, if him and the Islanders agreed and wanted to do it, where he could play in Bridgeport this season and it would not count. It would not burn a year in his entry-level contract. The only way for him to burn a year in that contract until he turns 20 is for him to play 10 plus games with the Islanders, because he was drafted from Europe. And the rules with the AHL are very strange, where European players are allowed to play in the AHL, but other players have to go to the CHL or college. Actually, you can't. If you sign an ELC, you're not allowed to play in college, which is likely why the two players who have not signed ELCs yet are going to college. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But what this basically means is the Islanders have options with Eklund. It will be exciting to see him play in preseason games. In fact, just going back to the CHL thing really quickly, I think in the future there's a new rule where you're allowed to have one player under the age of 19 play in the AHL starting next year. Honestly, I think this is just way too complicated with the NHL, and one of the biggest issues when it comes to bringing young players up is all the different rules, from the NCAA to the CHL to Europe. There should really be one set of rules. I think most other sports have it, so there's one set of rules for all these players. I think it would simplify a lot of this. But basically, what this means for Victor Eklund is when the Islanders are having trials, trying to see who's going to make that roster, we're going to be able to see Victor Eklund along with players like Callum Ritchie. And it's be really excited to see him, just see how he competes playing a preseason game or two. Again, I have no expectations for him to make the team. And one other thing that is notable is if the Bridgeport Islanders make the playoffs, I sound crazy mentioning Bridgeport Islanders in playoffs, but I really hope the turnaround is so extensive that they go from being the worst AHL team pretty much ever to making the playoffs. If they do make the playoffs, that would be a huge plus for the Islanders because Victor Eklund would be allowed to play, assuming his season in Sweden was over. And why this is so beneficial is you get a chance for him to play some games on the NHL ice after playing a year in Europe, which I do think is the best for him. Looking at his season last year, Victor Eklund was really effective. Again, I don't understand how Victor Eklund went 16th overall. He shouldn't have been available 10th overall, to be perfectly honest. If NHL teams drafted solely on talent and weren't just focusing on drafting players who are 6'3" and right-handed defensemen and like this emphasis on centers for some reason, even though half the players who are drafted as centers end up playing wing anyway because they don't really translate as NHL centers, Victor Eklund would have gone a lot higher. He's a player who not only put up good numbers last season, putting up 31 points in 42 games, but he also played in a pro league with men. So for anybody criticizing, oh, well, he's only 161 pounds, and I think he's now closer to 170. Oh, he's only 5'11". Well, he played with men last year, and he pretty much dominated that league. He was very physical. All the things you want out of a player, he was. So I don't understand why he wasn't drafted earlier. I don't care. I'm thrilled that he went to the Islanders, and I think another season in Sweden playing against men is the best fit for Eklund. You could make the argument that it would be better for him to get right into the AHL to play in the NHL ice, but I think it would be better for him to have another year where he can really go from being elite in the Swedish league to actually dominating. Now, these leagues already have lower scoring to begin with, which makes his 31 points very impressive, but seeing him take the next step in that league is very exciting, and I think it is the best fit for his development. Now, we also have to talk about the two players who did not sign entry-level contracts, and I think that is the bigger conversation, because when it comes to these entry-level contracts, there really is not much negotiation. Pretty much all there is to negotiate is whether the player is eligible to get grade A or grade B bonuses, and basically that means the players say like top 10 in rookies and scoring or something like that, they make more money. And I frankly don't think there's any reason when it comes to a first round pick arguing with them on bonuses. I haven't checked for certain. I don't think it's come out yet what bonuses Victor Eklund is getting from the Islanders. I would assume he has the opportunity to get any bonus if he performs to that level. I don't think some of these teams focus so much on trying to penny pinch and not giving these players bonus. If a player is top 10 in rookie scoring, I don't see any problem with giving them an extra $500,000. The teams that do pinch on these bonuses are just like not focusing on the right thing, especially when it comes to long-term player development. Bonuses are really not that much when it comes to negotiating. And in the case of Mathew Schaefer, there should be no negotiating at all when it comes to bonuses. He should have the max entry-level contract, and he should have all the bonuses he constantly can earn. The reason Mathew Schaefer has not signed, and I would say the same for Schaefer and Aitcheson, has not signed, it has nothing to do with them not wanting to sign an entry-level contract with the Islanders. It has nothing to do with bonus negotiation. Again, I don't think this will be an issue in either of these cases. It's because I think the Islanders are heavily considering with these two players the prospect of them playing college. And the fact that they have not yet signed an entry-level contract while Victor Eklund has shows that it is likely that these players are at least considering the option of playing in the NCAA. And I think for both these defensemen, the NCAA provides the best opportunity. With Aitcheson, I don't think there's any doubt. I think it's clear that the NCAA makes the most sense for his development. I think he's done all he can in terms of the OHL, proving himself, really escalating points 2 years in a row, and also being so physical to the point where it almost feels unfair for these 16, 17-year-olds to play against Schaefer and Aitcheson as he lights them up. I would like to see him play with higher competition. And also, the NCAA is stricter when it comes to hitting rules, so perhaps playing in the NCAA can help Schaefer and Aitcheson clean up his act. So, because obviously, I want him to play physical. There are a hit or two in his highlight reel, which, while not too dirty, was a bit questionable. And I'd like to see him continue to be physical, but play more in a sense like Alexander Romanov on the Islanders, where he delivers brutal hits, but there's never any doubt that they are clean. His feet stay on the ice. I think that would be a good next step for Aitcheson. As for Schaefer, as we talked about in previous videos, I think it's up to debate. I do think it would be best for him to play in the NCAA. Very notably, unlike with Aitcheson, just because I don't think Aitcheson would be ready at the end of the season, Schaefer, at the end of the college season, could come to play for the New York Islanders. So the big benefit, in my opinion, of him playing in the CHL, in the OHL, would be he could have a tryout where he plays 9 games for the Islanders before he gets sent down. Considering that, if assuming he doesn't win the entire thing in the NCAA, I mean, you never know, that could happen. Assuming that does not happen, he would be able to play in the last few games for the Islanders anyway, whether they're in a playoff push, which would be super exciting to add Schaefer, or if the season's over, they just want to give kids a chance. And because of that, I do think the NCAA is the better option, but I can see the argument, well, depending on how much he bulks up this summer, that maybe he deserves a chance to try out for the NHL right away. But let me know in the comments what you think about all these players. Where do you think is the best place for all of them to play? And which of these 3 prospects are you most excited about? I understand, like, yeah, Schaefer is the #1 prospect, arguably in the NHL, which we're going to talk about in our next episode of Islanders Digest. But for me, I just have so much excitement to see what Victor Eklund becomes, just because where the Islanders got him all this. All 3 of these prospects are super exciting. And it's going to be really interesting to see where they develop next and see when they come to play on the Islanders. With all these prospects, there's possibility, if not next season, that they're up a season after that, which makes the future of the Islanders just so exciting. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. I'm the host of Islanders Digest. Catch you on the next episode. It's been fun. Let's go, Islanders.